The scent hit the air like lightning splitting stone. Seren Kade stood in the center of the high assembly grounds, hands clenched at her sides, while 3,000 people stopped breathing at once. She didn't understand what was happening. One moment, the clerk had waved her forward for final verification. The next, the entire plaza went silent. Not the comfortable kind of silence. The kind that comes right before something breaks. Her skin prickled. The air tasted metallic, sharp enough to cut. Around her, the crowd shifted backward in a wave, like water recoiling from oil. Alphas in the front rows stiffened, their eyes flashing gold, then amber, then something darker. Guards reached for weapons they weren't supposed to draw in public. Magistrates stumbled off the platform, and then she smelled it too, her own scent, finally blooming after 23 years of nothing. It wasn't soft, it wasn't floral. It smelled like ozone before a storm, like copper pennies on a winter morning, like something wild that had been caged too long. The kind of scent that didn't ask for attention. It demanded it. Hi viewers, have you ever felt invisible your whole life, only to suddenly become the center of attention for all the wrong reasons? Someone screamed, not in pain, in panic. The 5 Alpha Kings stood on the raised dais at the far end of the grounds, and every single one of them moved. Not toward her exactly, just moved, like their bodies had stopped obeying their minds. Rhydan Crowe, Alpha King of the North Ridge, took 2 steps forward before his jaw locked. Stone cracked beneath his boots. The sky above him flickered with heat lightning even though the day had been clear. Seren's heart slammed against her ribs. This wasn't supposed to happen. She had lived her entire life as the Omega no one noticed. The one clerks waved past without a second glance. The one who sat through convocations while others were chosen, evaluated, whispered about. She had been called exactly 0 times. Registered as non-reactive on every single assessment since she turned 16. And now this. A magistrate pointed at her, his voice cracking. She manipulated the atmosphere. Another one nodded, frantic. She's unstable. Look at them. Look at the alphas. The crowd turned. Not curious anymore. Hostile. Seren opened her mouth to defend herself, but the words died in her throat. What could she say? She didn't know how this had happened either. She had taken her suppressants that morning like always. The same bitter pills that tasted like chalk and made her stomach turn. She had done everything right, but the scent kept blooming. Rhydan's eyes locked on hers from across the plaza. Gold fire burned in them so bright it hurt to look at directly. His hands curled into fists. Lightning arced between his fingertips. Behind him, stone pillars groaned under invisible pressure. He was losing control. An Alpha King, losing control. In public, the other kings weren't much better. Kay's morose shadows bled from his skin like ink in water. Jackson River's breath came out as steam even though it was mid-spring. Dante Ashford's palms glowed red-hot. Malik Stone's entire body went rigid, veins standing out like cords, and every single one of them stared at her. The head magistrate slammed his staff against the platform. Omega Seren Kade, you are hereby found volatile and unfit for registry. You will be removed from the capital immediately. The words hit like fists. Not chosen, not evaluated, rejected, in front of everyone. Seren felt her knees buckle, but she locked them. She would not fall. Not here. Not in front of people who had spent years pretending she didn't exist, only to turn on her the moment she became visible. I didn't do anything, she said, but her voice barely carried. You destabilized 5 Alpha Kings. The magistrate's face twisted. That's not nothing. That's dangerous. Guards moved in. Not gently. They grabbed her arms and hauled her off the platform while the crowd jeered. Someone threw something. It hit her shoulder, wet and cold. Laughter followed. Seren kept her eyes forward. She had learned a long time ago that fighting only made it worse. Systems didn't need cruelty to destroy you. They just needed procedure. Mark her slate. Remove her name. Erase her from the registry. Done. As they dragged her toward the exit, she glanced back once. Just once. Rhydan was still staring, but he wasn't moving toward her anymore. He had turned away, shoulders rigid, fists shaking at his sides, like he was fighting something inside himself, like he was trying not to follow. The guards shoved her through the gates and released her on the outer steps. One of them leaned close, his breath sour. "You have until nightfall to leave the capital. If you're still here after dark, the council will handle you personally." Then they were gone. Seren stood alone on the steps, her wrists bruised, her chest heaving. The sun was already sinking toward the mountains. She had maybe 4 hours. 4 hours to pack a life she barely had. 4 hours to disappear. She turned and started walking, her mind numb, her body moving on instinct. She didn't look back at the assembly grounds. Didn't let herself think about the kings or the crowd or the scent still clinging to her skin. But as she rounded the corner toward the lower districts, the sky rumbled. Not thunder, something worse. The storm clouds came fast. Too fast. Unnatural. They rolled over the mountains like a black wave, swallowing the light, turning the air cold and electric. People on the streets looked up, confused, then scattered for cover. Seren kept walking. She reached the boarding house where she rented a corner room on the 3rd floor. The landlord wasn't there, thank the gods. She climbed the stairs, unlocked her door, and stepped inside. The room was small. A cot, a trunk, a single window that overlooked the alley. She moved to the trunk and started pulling out her few belongings. 2 dresses, a cloak, the necklace her mother had left her before she died. Everything fit into a canvas bag that weighed almost nothing. This was her entire life. And it was already packed. Seren sat on the edge of the cot and pressed her palms against her eyes. She wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. Maybe she had used them all up years ago. Maybe there was nothing left. Outside, the storm intensified. Rain lashed the windows. Wind howled through the streets. And then she heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. Her heart kicked. The landlord never climbed the stairs. No one came up here except her. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Seren stood, her pulse hammering in her ears. She didn't have a weapon, didn't even have a lock that worked properly. A knock, 3 steady strikes. She didn't answer. The door opened anyway, and Rhydan Crowe stepped inside. What do you think Rhydan wants from Seren? Rhydan closed the door behind him without looking away from her. Rain dripped from his dark hair, ran down the sharp lines of his face, soaked into the black leather across his shoulders. He didn't shake it off, didn't seem to notice. His eyes burned gold in the dim light, brighter than any candle, brighter than they had been at the assembly grounds. Seren took a step back. Her spine hit the wall. He raised one hand, palm out. "I'm not here to hurt you." His voice was low, controlled, but there was something underneath it. Something that hummed like a plucked string stretched too tight. "Then why are you here?" Her own voice came out steadier than she expected. Rhydan's jaw tightened. He looked at her like he was trying to solve a problem that didn't have an answer. "The council sent trackers. They'll be here within the hour." "To do what?" "Containment." The word landed like a stone in her chest. Seren shook her head. "They already rejected me. They told me to leave. That was before." He stepped closer. Not threatening, just closer. "Before they realized you're not just volatile. You're destabilizing." "I don't even know what that means." "It means every Alpha King in the Northern Kingdoms felt your scent bloom. It means we're all compromised." His voice dropped. "And they can't allow that." Seren pressed harder against the wall. "So what, they're gonna lock me up? Kill me? They're going to make you disappear." Rhydan's eyes didn't leave hers. Quietly, efficiently, the way systems always do. Her stomach turned. She had heard stories. Omegas who caused problems didn't just get rejected. They got relocated, reassigned, sent to places where no one asked questions. "Why are you telling me this?" She searched his face. "You're one of them." "I know. So why?" Rhydan didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped to her throat, her collarbone, the place where her scent was strongest. His hands curled into fists at his sides. Because if I don't get you out of the capital, I won't be able to stop what happens next. The air between them tightened. Seren felt it. The pull. The same thing that had detonated at the assembly grounds. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't soft. It was gravity, inevitability, the kind of force that didn't care what you wanted. She forced herself to breathe. I'm leaving anyway. You don't have to do anything. You won't make it past the gates. Then I'll go over the walls. Seren. Her name in his mouth sounded wrong. Too familiar. Too careful. They will find you. Not if I'm fast enough. Rhydan closed the distance between them in 2 strides. He didn't touch her, but he was close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his skin, smell the rain and lightning still clinging to him. You don't understand. Your scent doesn't fade. Travels. Every step you take leaves a trail. Her breath hitched. That's not possible. It is for you. Silence filled the room. Outside, thunder cracked so loud the walls shook. Seren looked up at him. Really looked. His control was fracturing. She could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his breathing had gone shallow, the gold bleeding into the whites of his eyes. You should go, she whispered. I know. Then why are you still here? His voice came out rough. Because I can't. The confession hung between them like a live wire. Seren's pulse spiked. Her scent bloomed again, sharper this time, filling the small room until there was nowhere for it to go. She saw Rhydan's reaction. The way his pupils dilated, the way his hands trembled before he shoved them behind his back. He was fighting himself, and losing. Leave, she said again, more firmly. I'm trying. But he didn't move. Seren felt something crack inside her chest. Not breaking, opening. She didn't understand it, didn't want it, but it was there, undeniable, pulling her toward him the same way he was being pulled toward her. This isn't real, she said, desperate. It's just biology. I know. Then fight it. Rhydan's laugh was bitter. You think I haven't been? He dragged a hand through his wet hair. I've spent my entire life maintaining control. I don't lose it. Not in council chambers. Not in war. Not ever. His eyes locked on hers. Until you. The words hit her like a confession and an accusation at the same time. Seren pushed off the wall. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I. Then we agree. She grabbed her bag from the cot. I'll leave. You'll go back to your perfect control. And we'll both forget this happened. She tried to move past him, but Rhydan caught her wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop her. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Seren. His grip tightened. If you run, they'll hunt you. And when they find you, I won't be able to protect you. I don't need your protection. You will. She yanked her arm free. You don't get to decide that. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Rain hammered the window. Lightning split the sky. The storm outside had nothing on the one building inside the room. Then Rhydan's control snapped. He kissed her. Not gently, not like a question, like a dam breaking, like something that had been held back too long and couldn't be contained anymore. Seren's bag hit the floor. She should have pushed him away, should have screamed, should have done anything except kiss him back. But she did, because she was tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being rejected. Tired of living in a world that treated her like a problem to be solved instead of a person to be seen. And for one reckless, desperate moment, she wanted to be wanted. Even if it was only biology. Even if it was a mistake. The rest happened in a blur of heat and hands and mouths that didn't ask permission. No claims. No promises. Just two people who had spent their whole lives under control finally letting go. When dawn came, Seren woke up alone. Will Seren regret what happened? Or will she run before facing the consequences? Seren's hands shook as she laced her boots. The room was still dark. The storm had passed, leaving everything wet and cold. Her dress stuck to her skin. Her hair was a mess. She didn't look at the cot. didn't let herself think about what had happened there. She just needed to move. Her bag sat by the door where she had dropped it. She grabbed it, slung it over her shoulder, and reached for the handle. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Her heart stopped. They had found her already. She pressed her ear against the door, barely breathing. The footsteps came closer, slow and heavy. Not guards. Guards moved in groups. This was just one person. The landlord. Seren exhaled and pulled the door open a crack. The old woman stood in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes hard. "You need to go," the landlord said. No greeting, no preamble. "I know. I'm leaving. Now." Seren frowned. "What's wrong?" The landlord glanced toward the stairs, then back. "Council guards came by an hour ago. Asked about you. I told them you left yesterday." Seren's stomach dropped. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just go." The woman's voice softened, just barely. "And don't come back." Seren nodded and slipped past her into the hallway. She took the stairs 2 at a time, her boots loud on the wood. When she reached the ground floor, she paused at the door and peered through the crack. The street was empty. Too empty. No vendors. No morning crowd. No one heading to market. Just silence. Seren pushed the door open and stepped outside. The air smelled like rain and ash. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds that hadn't finished breaking. She turned toward the main road, but something made her stop. A voice, low and male, coming from the alley beside the boarding house. "She was here. I can still smell it." Seren's blood went cold. She pressed herself against the wall and edged closer to the corner. 2 men stood in the alley, both wearing council uniforms. One held a leather cord in his hand, the kind trackers used to capture scents. "It's faint," the second man said, "but it's hers. She couldn't have gone far." Seren didn't wait to hear more. She turned and ran. Not toward the main road, toward the outer district, where the streets narrowed and the buildings leaned close enough to block the sky. She had grown up here, knew every alley, every shortcut, every dead end. Behind her, shouts erupted. They had seen her. Seren pushed harder, her lungs burning. She ducked through a gap between 2 warehouses, vaulted over a broken cart, and kept going. The shouts faded, but she didn't slow down. She couldn't. The outer gates came into view, tall, iron, guarded. Of course they were guarded. Seren veered left, away from the gates, toward the eastern wall. There was a section near the old tannery where the stone had crumbled. Not much. Just enough for someone small to squeeze through. She had used it before, years ago, when she needed to disappear. The wall loomed ahead. Seren scanned it, found the gap, and started climbing. The stone was slick from the rain, but she dug her fingers into the cracks and hauled herself up. Almost there. A hand grabbed her ankle. Seren kicked blindly. Her boot connected with something solid. A grunt. The hand released. She scrambled the rest of the way up and dropped to the other side, hitting the ground hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. She forced herself up and ran. The forest beyond the wall was dense and dark. Trees pressed close, roots tangled underfoot. Seren didn't care. She pushed through branches, tripped over stones, kept moving until her legs screamed and her chest felt like it would collapse. Finally, she stopped, bent over, hands on her knees, gasping. Silence surrounded her. No shouts, no footsteps, just whined through the trees and her own ragged breathing. She had made it. Seren sank to the ground and pressed her palms against her eyes. Her whole body shook, not from cold, from everything. She had run from the council. She had slept with an Alpha King. She had left behind the only life she had ever known. And she didn't regret any of it. That was the worst part. She should regret it, should feel guilty or ashamed or terrified. But all she felt was relief. Like she had finally done something for herself instead of letting the world decide for her. Seren pulled her knees to her chest and let out a long breath. She was free, for now, but freedom had a price. She knew that. The council wouldn't stop looking. The trackers wouldn't give up. And Rhydan, she shoved the thought away. Rhydan was an Alpha King. He had his own kingdom to protect, his own control to maintain. Whatever had happened between them was a mistake, a moment of weakness. Nothing more. Seren stood and brushed the dirt from her dress. She needed to keep moving. The forest would only hide her for so long. She needed distance, real distance, far enough that even her scent couldn't follow. She started walking. The trees thinned after a while, giving way to rolling hills and open sky. Seren kept to the low ground, avoiding ridges where she might be seen. The sun climbed higher. Her stomach growled. She ignored it. By midday, she reached a stream. She knelt beside it and drank until her hands went numb. The water tasted clean, cold, nothing like the stale well water in the capital. She sat back and stared at her reflection. Her face looked the same. Same brown skin, same dark eyes, same sharp cheekbones. But something had changed. She couldn't name it, couldn't point to it, but it was there. A sound broke the silence. Footsteps, coming from the east. Seren froze. Not guards. Too quiet, too deliberate. She stood slowly and turned. Rhydan stepped out from the trees. He looked worse than he had the night before. His clothes were torn. His face was pale. Blood stained his knuckles. But his eyes were the same. Gold. Burning. Locked on her. Seren's heart slammed against her ribs. You followed me. I had to. Why? Rhydan didn't answer. He just stared at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. And that terrified her more than anything. Why did Rhydan really follow Seren into the forest? Seren took a step back. You need to leave. Rhydan didn't move. His chest rose and fell like he had been running, but his voice came out steady. I can't. Yes, you can. Just turn around and go back. They know. The words stopped her cold. Know what? That I left the capital. That I went after you. Rhydan's jaw tightened. The council is calling it a breach of duty. Seren's stomach twisted. Then go back and fix it. It's too late for that. It's not. You're an Alpha King. They need you. They need control. His eyes burned brighter. And I don't have it anymore. The confession hung between them like smoke. Seren shook her head. That's not my fault. I didn't say it was. Then stop acting like I'm responsible for fixing it. Rhydan finally moved. He closed the distance between them in 3 strides, and Seren's back hit a tree. He didn't touch her. Didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to pin her in place. I'm not asking you to fix it, he said quietly. I'm telling you what's happening. The council is sending hunters. Real ones. Not just trackers. Hunters for me or for you? Both. Seren's breath caught. Why? Because you destabilized 5 Alpha Kings. And I abandoned my post to chase after you. His voice dropped. They see us as a threat. We're not a threat. We're nothing. That's not what they think. Seren pushed him back, needing space. Then we split up. I go one way. You go another. Problem solved. Rhydan caught her wrist. It won't work. Why not? Because your scent is in my blood now. The words hit her like a slap. Seren yanked her hand free. That's not real. It's just chemicals. Tell that to my body. She turned away, her mind racing. This couldn't be happening. She had run to escape the capital, the council, the life that had tried to erase her. She wasn't supposed to be dragging an Alpha King down with her. Go back, she said, her voice tight. Tell them it was temporary insanity. Tell them I manipulated you. Tell them whatever they need to hear. They won't believe it. Make them believe it. Seren. Rhydan moved in front of her, forcing her to look at him. Even if I could, it wouldn't change what's happening to the other kings. She froze. What do you mean? Kaze, Jackson, Dante, Malik. They're all experiencing the same thing I am. Loss of focus, heightened aggression, power surges they can't control. His voice went flat. Your scent didn't just affect me. It affected all of us. Seren felt the ground tilt beneath her. That's impossible. It's happening. But I don't understand. I've never had this effect on anyone before. Because you were suppressed. The word cut through her like a blade. Seren stared at him. What? Rhydan's expression darkened. The suppressants you've been taking your whole life. They weren't just controlling your scent. They were blocking it completely. That's what they're supposed to do. No, they're supposed to regulate it, not erase it. He stepped closer. Someone wanted you invisible, Seren, and they made sure you stayed that way. Her mind spun. The bitter pills, the nausea, the years of being told she was defective. None of it had been real. Who? The word came out as a whisper. I don't know yet. But I'm going to find out. Seren shook her head. I don't care who. I just want to disappear. You can't. Watch me. She tried to push past him, but Rhydan blocked her path. If you run, they'll hunt you down. And when they find you, they won't be gentle. And if I stay with you, then we figure out what's happening. Together. Seren laughed, bitter and sharp. Together. That's rich. You're an Alpha King. I'm a rejected Omega. We're not partners. We're a disaster. Maybe. Rhydan's voice softened. But we're the only ones who know the truth. What truth? That the system is broken. And we're the proof. Seren looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't lying. She could see it in his eyes, the way his shoulders sagged under invisible weight. He was just as trapped as she was. I didn't ask for this, she said. Neither did I. Then why are you here? Rhydan's answer came quietly. Because I can't walk away. The silence stretched. Wind moved through the trees. The stream bubbled nearby. Everything felt too still. Fine, Seren said finally. We figure it out. But the moment I'm clear, I'm gone. Understood. And you don't touch me again. Rhydan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Agreed. Seren turned and started walking deeper into the forest. She didn't look back to see if he was following. She already knew he was. What will happen when the hunters catch up to them? 3 weeks later, Seren learned that running didn't make you free. It just made you tired. She sat in the corner of a cramped tavern in a border town she didn't know the name of. Her hood pulled low, her hands wrapped around a cup of cold tea. Rhydan sat across from her, his face shadowed, his posture relaxed in a way that was completely fake. They had been moving constantly, sleeping in barns, stealing food, avoiding main roads, and every single day the hunters got closer. Seren could feel them, not physically, but in the way innkeepers stared too long, the way strangers asked too many questions, the way doors closed a little too quickly when she walked past. Her scent was a beacon, and no matter how far she ran, it followed. We need to split up, she said quietly. Rhydan didn't look up from his drink. No, they're tracking me, not you. If I go alone, you can go back. I told you, it's too late for that. It's not. You just don't want to admit it. Rhydan's eyes flicked to hers. You think I want to be here? I think you're running from your own problems and using me as an excuse. His jaw tightened. That's not true. Isn't it? Seren leaned forward. You're an Alpha King. You have armies, resources, power. But instead of facing the council, you're hiding in a tavern with a rejected Omega. I'm not hiding. Then what are you doing? Rhydan set his cup down hard enough to rattle the table. I'm trying to keep you alive. Why? The question hung between them. Rhydan opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked away. Because it's the right thing to do. Liar. His eyes snapped back to hers. Excuse me? You're lying. To me. To yourself. Seren kept her voice low, but sharp. You're not here because of duty. You're here because you can't let go. That's not. Admit it. Rhydan stared at her. For a moment, she thought he might actually tell the truth. Then the door to the tavern slammed open. 2 men walked in. Council uniforms. Weapons at their hips. Seren's heart stopped. Rhydan's hand shot across the table and grabbed hers. Don't move. The hunters scanned the room. One of them pulled out a leather cord and held it to his nose. His eyes swept past Seren once, then came back. That's her. Seren's pulse spiked. Rhydan stood slowly, his body blocking hers from view. We're leaving. You're not going anywhere. The first hunter stepped forward. Omega Seren Kade, you're under arrest for destabilizing the northern kingdoms. I didn't destabilize anything. That's not for you to decide. The second hunter moved to flank them. Come quietly, and we won't use force. Rhydan's voice dropped. She's not going anywhere. The first hunter's hand went to his weapon. Alpha King Crowe, step aside. This doesn't concern you. It does now. You're making a mistake. Then I've made plenty before. Rhydan's eyes flashed gold. Walk away. The hunter hesitated. Then he drew his blade. Everything happened fast. Rhydan moved first. He grabbed the table and flipped it, sending drinks and plates crashing. Seren ducked. The second hunter lunged. Rhydan caught his wrist and twisted. Bone cracked. The man screamed. The first hunter swung his blade. Rhydan dodged and slammed his fist into the man's ribs. The hunter dropped. Silence. The entire tavern stared. Rhydan turned to Seren. We're leaving. Now. She didn't argue. They ran. Out the back door. Through the alley. Into the streets. Behind them, shouts erupted. More hunters. More guards. Seren's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But she didn't stop. Rhydan grabbed her hand and pulled her into a narrow passage between buildings. They pressed against the wall, breathing hard. Footsteps thundered past. Seren closed her eyes. This is never going to end. It will. How? Rhydan didn't answer, because he didn't have one. How will they escape when the entire kingdom is hunting them? The laboratory smelled like chalk and antiseptic. Seren pressed her palm against the glass door, staring at rows of metal tables inside, each one covered with papers and vials and equipment she didn't recognize. The building sat abandoned on the edge of what used to be a research district, windows boarded up, walls covered in vines. But the lock on the door was new, recent. Someone had been here. This is it, Rhydan said behind her. He held a folder he had stolen from a council courier 3 days ago. The papers inside had led them here, to a place that wasn't supposed to exist. Seren turned to look at him. You're sure? The records don't lie. He flipped open the folder and pointed to a stamped seal at the top. Project Equilibrium, authorized by the High Council, discontinued 23 years ago, the same year she was born. Seren's throat tightened. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. Dust covered everything. The tables, the chairs, the shelves lined with glass containers. But underneath the dust, the equipment looked pristine, like someone had walked out yesterday and never came back. Rhydan moved to one of the tables and started sorting through papers. They were trying to create balance omegas, individuals who could stabilize multiple alpha bloodlines during power surges. Why would they need that? Because alpha kings are volatile. When our power spikes, we lose control. People die. Cities burn. He looked up at her. The council wanted a failsafe. Seren felt cold. So they made us. Not just you. There were others. Rhydan pulled out a ledger and ran his finger down the page. 15 attempts. Most didn't survive infancy. The ones who did were monitored, suppressed, hidden. How many survived? 3. Seren sank into a chair. 3 people. That was all. And she was one of them. Where are the others? She asked. Rhydan shook his head. The records stop after age 5. Either they died or someone erased them. Or they're still out there, suppressed like I was. Maybe. Seren stood and walked to a shelf at the back of the room. Rows of small glass bottles lined the wood, each one labeled with a number. She picked one up and read the faded ink. Subject 7. Omega Suppression Compound. Daily dosage. Her hands shook. She had been taking these her entire life. Little bitter pills that made her stomach hurt and her head fog. Her guardians had told her they were vitamins, health tonics, necessary. They had been lying. They poisoned me, she whispered. Rhydan crossed the room and took the bottle from her hand. He stared at it like it might explode. They didn't see it as poison. They saw it as containment. That's the same thing. To them, it's not. Seren turned away, her chest tight. She had spent 23 years believing she was broken, defective, unwanted, and the whole time she had been exactly what they made her to be. A tool. Not a person. A tool. "I want to burn this place down," she said. "Not yet." Rhydan moved to another table and pulled out a stack of files. "We need to know who authorized this, who's still protecting it." Seren watched him work. His movements were precise, controlled, like everything he did. But his eyes burned with something sharp. Anger. The kind that didn't explode. The kind that calculated. "You're not doing this for me," she said. Rhydan paused. "What?" "This. The investigation. The running." She crossed her arms. "You're doing it because you're angry. I'm doing it because it's right. That's not the same thing." He looked at her then. Really looked. "Does it matter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I need to know if you're here because you care about me or because you care about being right." The question landed hard. Rhydan set the files down and walked toward her. He stopped a foot away, close enough that she could see the gold still flickering in his eyes. "I don't know how to separate the two." "Try." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "The night I found you in your room, I told myself it was duty, containment, responsibility, but that was a lie." Seren's breath caught. "I followed you because I couldn't stop thinking about your scent. Your voice. The way you looked at me like I was just another man instead of a king." His voice dropped. "And that terrified me." "Why?" "Because I've spent my entire life being in control. And you made me lose it in less than a minute." Seren didn't know what to say. She had expected anger, maybe resentment. Not this. "I'm not asking you to fix me," Rhydan continued. "I'm not asking you to stay. But I need you to know that this isn't just about the council or the program or justice. It's about you." The words hung between them. Seren wanted to be angry, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that this was still just biology and proximity and circumstance. But she couldn't, because part of her felt it too. A footstep echoed outside. Both of them froze. Rhydan moved first. He grabbed Seren's arm and pulled her behind one of the tables. They crouched low, barely breathing. The door creaked open. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. More than one person. A voice cut through the silence. Male. Cold. Familiar. She was here. I can still smell her. Seren's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. Rhydan's hand tightened on her arm. He looked at her, eyes asking a silent question. Seren nodded. It was Councilman Thorn, the same man who had declared her volatile at the assembly grounds. The same man who had ordered her removal. He was here, looking for her. "Search everything," Thorn said. "If there's evidence, destroy it." Footsteps scattered. Drawers slammed open. Papers rustled. Rhydan leaned close to Seren's ear. "We need to move. Now." She nodded. They crept toward the back exit, staying low, moving between tables. Seren's heart pounded so loud she was sure someone would hear it. They were almost to the door when glass shattered behind them. Someone had knocked over a vial. "There!" a voice shouted. Rhydan shoved Seren through the door and slammed it behind them. They ran. Through the alley, past crumbling buildings, into the forest beyond. Behind them, shouts erupted. Footsteps thundered. They didn't stop until the trees swallowed them whole. Seren collapsed against a trunk, gasping. "He's destroying the evidence." "I know. We can't let him." Rhydan pulled the folder from inside his coat. "We won't. I have copies." Seren stared at him. "You planned this." "I planned for the possibility." "What else are you planning?" Rhydan's jaw tightened. "To make them answer for what they did." Seren looked back toward the research district. Smoke was already rising. They were burning it, all of it, erasing the proof. But Rhydan had copies, and that changed everything. What will Seren and Rhydan do with the evidence? And how will the council respond when they realize the truth is about to be exposed? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next in this story of survival and justice. Drop your thoughts in the comments and inspire others with your perspective. Rhydan found her in the high valleys, exactly where he knew she would be. She sat on a flat boulder overlooking the gorge, her knees pulled to her chest, her hair whipping in the wind. She didn't turn when he approached, didn't acknowledge him at all. He stopped a few feet away. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Seren." "Go away, Rhydan." He didn't move, just stood there watching her. She looked smaller than she had weeks ago, thinner, tired. Running had stripped something from her, something he couldn't name. "The council knows we have the files," he said quietly. That got her attention. She turned, eyes sharp. "How?" "Thorn sent a message. He wants to negotiate." Seren laughed, bitter, sharp. "Negotiate? That's rich. He's offering immunity. For both of us. If we hand over the evidence and disappear. And you're considering it." "No." Rhydan's voice hardened. "I'm telling you what he offered, not what I'm going to do." Seren stood and crossed her arms. "What are you going to do?" "Expose them, publicly, in front of the entire kingdom. That's suicide. Maybe. You'll lose everything. Your title, your power, your life." "I know." Seren stared at him. "Then why?" Rhydan stepped closer. "Because you were right. I've been running from my own problems, hiding behind duty and control and all the things I was taught to value. But the truth is the system is broken, and I helped maintain it. So this is guilt. This is accountability." Seren shook her head. "You can't fix the system by destroying yourself. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm trying to burn it down." The words hit her like a slap. She searched his face, looking for hesitation, doubt, anything that said he didn't mean it. She found nothing. "You're serious?" she whispered. "Yes. They'll kill you. Probably. Then I'm coming with you." Rhydan's expression shifted. "No. You don't get to decide that. Seren, if you stand beside me, they'll destroy you too." "They already destroyed me." Her voice cracked. "The moment they suppressed my scent. The moment they marked me defective. The moment they made me believe I didn't matter." She stepped closer. "I'm done hiding." Rhydan's jaw tightened. "This isn't your fight." "Yes, it is. I'm the proof. I'm the evidence. I'm the reason any of this matters." She held his gaze. "And I'm not letting you do this alone." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Rhydan nodded. "Fine, but we do this my way." "Which is?" "We go to the capital. We call a public assembly. And we make them answer for what they did." Seren felt her stomach twist. "They'll never let us get that far. They will if we force their hand." "How?" Rhydan pulled a folded letter from his coat. "I sent word to the other Alpha Kings. Kaze, Jackson, Dante, Malik. I told them everything. About the program. About you. About what the council did." Seren's breath caught. "What did they say?" "They're coming. All of them. To the capital. In 3 days." "Why would they help us?" "Because they're experiencing the same loss of control I am. And they deserve to know why." Seren's mind raced. 5 Alpha Kings. All destabilized. All angry. All demanding answers. The council wouldn't be able to ignore that. "This could work," she said slowly. "It has to. And if it doesn't?" Rhydan's voice went quiet. "Then we die trying." Seren looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't the same man who had walked into her room weeks ago. That man had been controlled, restrained, perfect. This man was broken, and somehow that made him real. "I need you to promise me something," she said. "What?" "If this goes wrong, if they come for us, you run." Rhydan shook his head. "I'm not leaving you. Promise me." "No." "Rhydan." I said no. He stepped closer, his voice fierce. "I've spent my entire life walking away from things that mattered because it was easier. because it was safer, because it was expected. His eyes burned. I'm not doing that anymore. Seren felt something crack inside her chest. Not breaking, opening. You're an idiot, she whispered. I know, and this is going to get us both killed. Probably, and you still want to do it. Yes. Seren closed her eyes, took a breath, then opened them. Fine, we go to the capital. We face the council, and we make them answer. Rhydan's shoulders relaxed. Together, together. They stood there for a moment, the wind howling around them, the gorge yawning below. Two people who had spent their lives being controlled, finally choosing their own path. Even if it led to destruction. Rhydan turned to leave, but Seren caught his arm. Wait, he looked back. Thank you, she said quietly, for believing me, for fighting for me, for seeing me as more than just a problem to solve. Rhydan's expression softened. You were never a problem, Seren. You were always the solution. Then he walked away. Seren watched him go, her heart pounding, her mind racing. 3 days. 3 days until they faced the council. 3 days until everything changed. She just hoped they survived long enough to see it. A shadow moved at the edge of the valley. Seren's head snapped up. Someone was watching. Not a hunter, not a guard. Someone else. The figure stepped into. No one had called her that in years. Who is this mysterious woman? And what does she know about Seren's past? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Share your theories in the comments below and let's uncover the truth together. The capital hadn't changed. Seren stood at the edge of the plaza, her hood pulled low, watching people move through the market like nothing had happened, like she hadn't been publicly rejected here, like her life hadn't been destroyed on these very stones. Rhydan stood beside her, his presence heavy and electric. The other Alpha Kings were already inside the council hall, waiting. You ready? He asked. Seren's hands trembled. She clenched them into fists. No. Good. Neither am I. They walked forward together. The council hall loomed ahead, massive and cold, built from white stone that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Guards lined the entrance, but they didn't stop Rhydan. Didn't even look at him. They just stepped aside and let him pass. Being a king had privileges, even a king who had abandoned his post. Inside, the hall was packed. Nobles, magistrates, citizens who had been summoned for what the council called an urgent assembly. They filled the benches, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling. When Seren entered, the voices stopped. Every head turned, every eye locked on her. She felt it again, that same weight from the assembly grounds, the stairs, the judgment, the hatred. But this time she didn't look away. She walked down the center aisle, her chin up, her step steady. Rhydan stayed close, his hand hovering near her back. Not touching, just present. At the front of the hall, the 5 Alpha Kings sat in a row. Case Morrow, Jackson Rivers, Dante Ashford, Malik Stone, and an empty chair for Rhydan. Above them, on a raised platform, sat the High Council. 7 men and women in white robes, their faces carved from ice. Councilman Thorn sat in the center. His eyes found Seren immediately, cold, calculating. She stared back. Thorn stood and raised his hand. The hall fell silent. We are gathered today to address a matter of great importance, he said, his voice carrying. Alpha King Rhydan Crowe has made serious accusations against this council. Accusations that threaten the stability of our kingdom. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Thorn continued. He claims that we conducted unauthorized experiments on Omegas, that we suppressed individuals for our own gain, that we created and then abandoned a program designed to control alpha power. More murmurs. Louder now. These accusations are false, Thorn said firmly. And today we will prove it. Rhydan stepped forward. Then you won't mind if I present evidence. Thorn's jaw tightened. Proceed. Rhydan pulled the folder from his coat and handed it to a clerk. Project Equilibrium. Authorized by this council 23 years ago. designed to create balance omegas capable of stabilizing multiple alpha bloodlines. The clerk opened the folder and began reading aloud. Names, dates, experiment results, suppression protocols. The hall erupted. Nobles shouted. Magistrates stood. Citizens gasped. Thorn slammed his staff against the platform. Silence. The noise died, but the tension remained. This proves nothing, Thorn said coldly. These documents could be forged. Rhydan smiled. It wasn't kind. Then explain why Omega Seren Kade was suppressed her entire life. Why her scent was chemically blocked. Why she was marked defective when she was actually functioning exactly as you designed her to. All eyes turned to Seren. She stepped forward, her heart pounding. I was Subject 7, one of 15 children created in your laboratories. Most of us died. The ones who survived were hidden, suppressed, erased. Gasps filled the hall. You made me believe I was broken, Seren continued, her voice shaking. You made me believe I didn't matter. And then when I finally bloomed, you blamed me for destabilizing the kings. She looked directly at Thorn. But I didn't destabilize them. You did, when you created me to be a failsafe and then tried to bury the evidence. The hall exploded again. Thorn's face went white. This is absurd. Kay's Moro stood. His shadows bled from his skin like smoke. Is it? Because I've been losing control for weeks, ever since her scent bloomed. And I want to know why. Jackson Rivers stood next. So do I, Dante Ashford. And I, Malik Stone. Same. All 5 Alpha Kings stared at the council. Thorn's composure cracked. Just slightly. The program was discontinued. Any lingering effects are unintentional. Unintentional, Rhydan repeated. You created living weapons and then abandoned them. And when one of them survived, you tried to destroy her. We tried to contain her. By erasing her. Thorn's eyes flashed. She is dangerous. All of them are. That's why the program was discontinued. No. The voice came from the back of the hall. Everyone turned. The woman from the valley stepped forward. The one who had called Seren Subject 7. She was older now. Gray hair. Scarred hands. But her eyes were sharp. The program wasn't discontinued because the subjects were dangerous, the woman said. It was discontinued because you couldn't control them. Thorn's face went rigid. Who are you? Dr. Camille Foster, lead researcher on Project Equilibrium. She walked down the aisle. I designed the balance omegas. I monitored them, and I was ordered to terminate the program when the council realized they had created something they couldn't manipulate. The hall went silent. Dr. Foster stopped in front of Seren. You were the most successful subject. Your scent didn't just stabilize alphas. It regulated them, made them stronger, more focused, but only if you chose to bond willingly. Seren's breath caught. What? The bond can't be forced. If it is, the effect reverses. The alphas destabilize, lose control, destroy themselves. Dr. Foster looked at the council. That's why they suppressed you, because they couldn't use you as a tool. You had to choose. The weight of the words settled over the hall. Seren looked at Rhydan. At the other kings. At the council. They had tried to erase her because she had power. Real power. The power to choose. Thorn stood. This changes nothing. The program is over. The subjects are contained. No, Seren said. Her voice rang clear. I'm not contained. I'm not a tool. And I'm not your failsafe. She turned to face the crowd. I reject the bond. I reject the system. And I choose exile over becoming a solution to a problem you created. The hall erupted in chaos. Rhydan stepped beside her. Then I'm coming with you. Thorn's voice cut through the noise. If you leave, you forfeit your title, your power, everything. Rhydan met his eyes. Good. I don't want it anymore. The other kings stood, one by one. We'll dismantle the council, Kay said. Outlaw suppression, Jackson added. Expose every program, Dante finished. Malik nodded. And make sure this never happens again. The council had no response. Seren turned and walked toward the exit. Rhydan followed, and behind them the system began to crumble. Will Seren truly find freedom? Or is there one final twist waiting? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the powerful conclusion. Comment below what you think Seren should do next. Seren stood in the center of the plaza one last time. The same stones where she had been rejected. The same crowd that had jeered. The same air that had tasted like humiliation. But this time she wasn't being judged. She was choosing. Rhydan stood beside her, silent. The other Alpha Kings watched from the council hall steps. Dr. Foster waited near the fountain, her expression unreadable, and the crowd that had gathered whispered, uncertain, waiting to see what would happen next. The council had called for a formal bonding ceremony, a public declaration that would stabilize the kingdom and restore order. They had prepared everything, the platform, the witnesses, the binding cords. All Seren had to do was say yes. But she wasn't going to. Thorn descended the steps, his face carved from stone. Omega Seren Kade. The kingdom requires stability. The Alpha Kings require regulation. You were created for this purpose. It is your duty to fulfill it. Seren looked at him. No. The single word echoed across the plaza. Thorn's jaw tightened. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. That's the whole point. Seren stepped forward. Dr. Foster told you the bond only works if I choose it willingly. And I don't. You're condemning the entire kingdom. No, you are. By building a system that treats people like tools instead of individuals. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Thorn's voice rose. If you refuse the bond, the Alpha Kings will continue to destabilize. Cities will fall. People will die. Their blood will be on your hands. Seren felt the weight of his words, felt the eyes of the crowd pressing down on her, felt the pull of duty and expectation and all the things she had been taught mattered. But she also felt something else. Her own voice, clear and steady. Then maybe the Alpha Kings need to learn control without a failsafe, she said. Maybe the system needs to collapse so something better can replace it. And maybe I'm not responsible for fixing problems I didn't create. The crowd went silent. Rhydan stepped forward. She's right. Thorn turned on him. You would sacrifice your power for her? I already have. Rhydan's voice was calm, certain. I've spent my entire life believing control was the most important thing. That discipline and restraint made me strong. But I was wrong. Control without choice is just another cage. He looked at Seren. She showed me that. Seren's throat tightened. Kaz Moreau stepped forward next. The council created this problem, not her. If we're destabilizing, it's because we relied on a system instead of learning to regulate ourselves. Jackson Rivers nodded. We'll figure it out, without forcing someone into servitude. Dante Ashford crossed his arms. And if we can't, then maybe we don't deserve the power we have. Malik Stone's voice rumbled. Agreed. The 5 Alpha Kings stood together, united, against the council. Thorn's face twisted. You're making a mistake. All of you. Maybe, Rhydan said. But it's our mistake to make. He turned to Seren. What do you want? The question hung in the air. What did she want? Not what the council wanted. Not what the kingdom needed. Not what duty demanded. What did she want? Seren looked at the plaza, at the people watching, at the system that had tried to erase her, and she knew. I want to leave, she said quietly. I want to go somewhere they can't find me. Somewhere I can live without suppressants or registries or people telling me what I'm supposed to be. Rhydan nodded. Then that's what you'll do. What about you? I'll stay. Dismantle the council. Change the laws. Make sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else. Seren's chest ached. That's not enough. It's all I can give. I know. She stepped closer. And that's why I can't stay. Rhydan's expression didn't change, but his eyes flickered with something raw. I understand. Do you? Yes. His voice dropped. You're choosing freedom over security. Dignity over compromise. Yourself over the system. He met her gaze. That's exactly what you should do. Seren felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. I don't hate you. I know. But I can't be your solution. I'm not asking you to be. She searched his face. Then what are you asking? Nothing. Rhydan's voice was steady. I'm just telling you that I'm glad you existed. Even if it was only for a moment. Even if it cost me everything. The words broke something inside her. Seren turned away before he could see her cry. Dr. Foster approached, holding a small leather bag. There's a town beyond the eastern border. They don't use registries. Don't track sense. You'll be safe there. Seren took the bag. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just live. Seren nodded. She looked back at the plaza one last time. At the council hall. At the crowd. At Rhydan standing tall and broken and free. Then she walked away. No one stopped her. The Alpha Kings watched her go. The council stayed silent. The crowd parted. And for the first time in her life, Seren Kade chose herself. Behind her, Rhydan turned to the council. Effective immediately, I'm dissolving your authority. Project Equilibrium is exposed. Suppression compounds are outlawed. And any Omega who wants to leave the kingdom is free to do so. Thorn's voice shook. You can't do this. I just did. The other kings nodded. The system crumbled. But Seren didn't see it. She was already gone. Walking toward the border. Toward freedom. Toward a life that was finally completely hers. Even if it meant losing the one person who had seen her as more than a tool. Even if it hurt. Because some things mattered more than love. Like dignity. Like choice. Like knowing you walked away with your soul intact. Did Seren make the right choice? Or will she regret leaving Rhydan behind? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the final chapter. Share your thoughts in the comments and inspire others with your perspective on freedom versus love. 6 months passed before anyone recognized her scent again. Seren lived in a small coastal town where the air smelled like salt and fish and freedom. She rented a room above a bakery, worked in the market, kept to herself. No one asked questions. No one demanded answers. She was just another woman trying to survive. And that was exactly what she wanted. Some nights she thought about Rhydan. Wondered if he had succeeded in dismantling the council. Wondered if the other kings had learned control. Wondered if the kingdom had changed. But she never went back to find out. Because going back would mean stepping into a story that wasn't hers anymore. She had chosen exile. Chosen anonymity. Chosen a life where her scent didn't define her and her body wasn't a battleground. And she didn't regret it. Not once. The woman who owned the bakery was kind. Older. Quiet. She asked Seren once if she was running from something. Seren had answered honestly. No. I'm running toward something. What's that? Peace. The woman had nodded and never asked again. On a Tuesday morning, while Seren was arranging bread in the window, a stranger walked into the shop. Tall, dark skin, as like amber, not a king, not a hunter, just a traveler. He ordered a loaf and some honey, paid, started to leave. Then he stopped, turned, looked directly at Seren. You're different, he said. Seren's heart kicked. Excuse me? Your scent. It's not like the others. Her blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. The man smiled. Not threatening, just curious. I'm from the Southern Territories. We don't suppress Omegas there. We train them. He tilted his head. You're a balanced Omega, aren't you? Seren's hands clenched. I don't use that term. Why not? Because it makes me sound like a tool. You're not a tool. You're rare. He stepped closer. In my homeland, balanced Omegas are revered, protected, valued, not for what they can do for others, but for what they are. Seren stared at him. What do you want? Nothing. Just wanted you to know there's a place where you wouldn't have to hide. He left the shop without another word. Seren stood frozen, her mind racing. A place where she wouldn't have to hide. A place where being what she was didn't make her dangerous. a place where choice was the foundation, not the exception. She didn't know if it was real, didn't know if she could trust it, but for the first time in months, she felt something stir inside her chest. Not hope exactly, curiosity. That night, Seren sat on the roof of the bakery and stared at the stars. The sea crashed against the rocks below. The wind carried salt and possibility. She thought about Rhydan, about the council, about the kingdom she had left behind, and she realized something. She didn't miss it. Not the power, not the drama, not even the man who had looked at her like she was the answer to everything. What she missed was the version of herself who had fought back. The version who had stood in front of the council and refused. The version who had chosen dignity over compliance. That version was still here, living quietly, surviving, free. And that was enough. Seren pulled her knees to her chest and smiled. Not every story ended in reunion. Not every love was meant to last. Not every system could be fixed. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was walk away. And sometimes, freedom looked like a quiet room above a bakery where no one knew your name, where your scent didn't follow you, where your choices were yours alone. Seren closed her eyes and breathed in the salt air. She was free, and nothing, not the council, not the kings, not even love, could take that away. In the distance, a ship sailed toward the southern territories. Seren watched it go, and wondered, maybe one day she would follow. Maybe one day, she would find the place where balance omegas were revered instead of feared. Maybe one day she would stop running and start living. But not today. Today she would stay here, in this quiet town, in this small room, in this life she had built from nothing, because she had earned it, and no one could tell her otherwise. The stars burned overhead. The sea sang below, and Seren Kade, Subject 7, Balance Omega, rejected and resilient, sat in the dark and knew one truth above all others. She had survived, and survival was its own kind of victory. Somewhere in the northern kingdoms, Rhydan Crowe stood on a balcony overlooking a city that was slowly healing. The council was gone. The laws had changed. Omegas were free, but the woman who had started it all was gone too. And he would spend the rest of his life wondering if he had done the right thing. If letting her go was love, or cowardice, he would never know. But he hoped, wherever she was, that she was happy, that she was free, that she had found the peace she deserved. Because some people weren't meant to be kept. They were meant to be remembered. And Seren Kade would be remembered, not as a tool, not as a weapon, not as a solution, but as a woman who chose herself when the entire world told her not to. And that was the most powerful thing of all. Thank you for following Seren's journey from rejection to freedom. If the story moved you, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next powerful tale of resilience and choice. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Did Seren make the right choice? Would you have stayed or left? Your perspective might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. Let's build a community where stories like this remind us that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing we can do.